Good afternoon and welcome to the news. My name is Remy Allen. The second convocation ceremony of the Osrc University of Science and Technology, Okitipupa, is currently in progress at the University Auditorium. The Governor of Ondo State and visitor to the Citadel of Learning, Lucky Ayedatiwa, leads top government functionaries, political associates, royal fathers, and parents, as well as the graduates, to the event, which also marks the 16th Founders Day celebration. Accra, the Ondo State capital, is a bustling metropolis, and with that comes noise pollution around offices, school environment, even at residential areas. Many residents have had to deal with loud blasts of music and disturbing sounds from power generators near their homes on a daily basis. The Ondo State government recently clamped down on nightclubs guilty of public disturbances, but many residents said the move only solved half of the problem, as places of worship in residential areas perpetrate the same offense. Jeff Pius reports that residents are calling on government to intensify regulations and keep noise pollution at bay in the state. The report.
Sound is part of life, but when uncontrolled and unwanted, it becomes noise. Noise pollution takes place when there is either excessive amount of noise or an unpleasant sound that causes a temporary disruption in the natural balance of sounds. This menace has been on the increase due to population explosion, increase in vehicular movements, high industrial activities, and many others. Daily hustle and bustle in most parts of the country, including in Ondo State, expose residents to environmental hazards, particularly noise pollution. Markets, motor parks, recreational centers, and even worship centers are mostly responsible for contributing to the challenge. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, for educational, health facilities, and offices, the permissible ambient noise during the day is 55 decibels, while at night is 50 decibels, whereas residential and commercial areas 60 decibels at day and 55 at night. But according to residents, these regulations are not being upheld. They called on government to put in workable measures to reduce noise pollution in the state.
There are times when you need to indulge in the process of brainstorming, or you're working through an account. You're working diligently on the account of a customer or companies, and you want to be able to think laterally, you want to be able to think logically as you're working. But when there's too much noise and too much pollution, you'll be unable to do that. And that affects not only you mentally, it can actually drain you physically. It's one of the reasons why people are actually stressed out, apart from the work that they do that makes them stressed. You can also be impacted through noise pollution negatively.
If someone is sick at that particular time, he's taking his drug, what he needs at that particular time is for him to rest. If it is church, mosques, party, they will just be disturbing. But what I can say now is that government should make sure that they should please and try to reduce this thing, because it affects people's health a lot.
Something drastic has to be done, perhaps as a way of punishing those ones who are engaged in such compromise, then at the same time revisit a kind of a public awareness.
According to medical experts, noise can lead to hypertension, hearing loss, high stress level, and loss of sleep, and should be minimized.
The amount of the noise that we're talking about, it can have negative effect on the eardrum, and if that is sustained over a period of time, it can affect the ability of the individual to be able to pick sensory perceptions from sound over a period of time.
We should control our noise level, and that goes for the mosque that blares, the church. During crusade, you have a church or churches that blare that is not the right thing to be done. So noise level should be reduced to minimum.
A legal practitioner, Olusegun Akeredolu, highlighted what constitutes culpability in the offense of noise pollution and the consequences it attracts.
If you are making that level of noise above the permissible level at a particular time, then you are committing a crime. In industrial area, the number or the volume of noise that could be emitted is different from residential area. Residential area is different from school environment and hospital environment. Hospital and school environment especially, because the students' ability to comprehend other things, environment that is noisy, or that is that distraction or things like that. So there are things that are put into consideration.
The Director of Pollution Control and Sanitation Department, Ministry of Environment, Ondo State, Olumide Kinga, highlights efforts of government in bringing sanity to the environment by setting up punitive measures against violators.
If you are given a tip-off and we go for on-the-spot assessment, if we find out that those people are really creating the nuisance, we go to the level of removing their speakers that are hung on top of the building. We make sure we stop them from even using any electronic gadget during night vigils. We make them to reduce night vigils that are supposedly to be carried out 4 times in a week to maybe once in 3 months. So those are the things that we do. But after exhausting all these available options, we will not mind to take any stubborn church or mosque or client to the law court.
Hearing plays vital role in communication. Therefore, residents must protect their sense of hearing by reducing noise level in the environment. Joy Pius, Osrc News.
President Bola Tinubu cites Nigerian youths are worth every investment as they are educated, reliable, and proactive. He argued that X cannot be a yardstick for gauging the capacity of majority who, he said, are ready to be unleashed for the mutual benefit of both nations. Tinubu spoke when he and the Emir of the State of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, witnessed the signing of 7 landmark agreements between both nations after closed-door talks at the presidential palace in Doha. The 7 agreements signed are the cooperation agreement in the field of education, regulation of employment of workers with the government of Qatar, establishment of a joint business council between the Qatar Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, in addition to a cooperation agreement in the field of youth and sports. The other agreements are cooperation in the field of tourism and business events and a memorandum of understanding combating illicit trade in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. The documents were signed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, and relevant officials in the government of the state of Qatar. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has assured global investors that his administration would remove all obstacles hindering the ease of doing business in Nigeria. The president gave the assurance at the Nigeria-Qatar Business and Investment Forum held in Doha on Sunday. In a statement released by his media advisor, Ajuri Ngalali, President Tinubu urged genuine investors to report to him directly any official who obstructed progress or asked for a bribe in the course of any dealings in Nigeria. The president, who said Nigeria was ready for serious business, pledged that his administration would deal with entrenched interests that had been undermining investors' confidence in the country's economy. He pledged to remove all bottlenecks standing in the way of profitable and legitimate enterprise. Though Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has written to the federal government dismissing claims that the government has fulfilled 80% of the October 2023 agreement with organized labour, NLC asked the government to come out claim on any part of the agreement is fully fulfilled, warning that resorting to propaganda and disinformation is heightening restlessness among the citizens. The acting General Secretary, Ismail Bello, advised the government to, between now and March 13, 2024, the deadline to fast-track the process of implementation of the agreement and avoid a looming industrial action. Following the invasion of a federal government food storage warehouse in Abuja, the FCT Police Command has arrested 15 suspects, including 2 security guards, who actively participated in the looting. A statement by the police public relations officer, Josephine Ade, said 26 bags of maize, 5 motorcycles, and some vandalized aluminium roofings were recovered from the suspects. She stated that normalcy has since been restored to the environment, while the situation has been brought under control. The FCT Police Command has announced dates and venues for the computer-based test as part of the next phase for applicants to the Nigerian Police Force. In a statement by the Police Public Relations Officer of the FCT Command, the test will take place on the 5th and 6th of March across the 9 centers of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board in the nation's capital. The chairman of the police service and former Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, had assured Nigerians of merit-based recruitment into the Nigeria Police Force based on the Federal Character Commission's requirement of equal representation. The Commission's head of media and publicity, Ike Chukwu Ani, stated that the police had placed security at all the centers of the test to ensure the security of every applicant. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza while rebuking Israel for not increasing the flow of aid to Palestinians.
Given the immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire. For at least the next 6 weeks, which is what is currently on the table. The Israeli government must do more to significantly increase the flow of aid. No excuses. They must open new border crossings. They must not impose any unnecessary restrictions on the delivery of aid. They must ensure humanitarian personnel, sites, and convoys are not targeted. And they must work to restore basic services and promote order in Gaza so more food, water, and fuel can reach those in need. Hamas claims it wants a ceasefire. Well, there is a deal on the table. And as we have said, Hamas needs to agree to that deal. Let's get a ceasefire. Let's reunite the hostages with their families. And let's provide immediate relief to the people of Gaza.
There have been efforts to criminalize people who live on the streets in the United States. Supreme Court judges are due to rule on whether a law that essentially makes being homeless a crime is constitutional. The ruling could affect the lives of more than 500,000 people. Kemisola Jomo has details.
Background, so this is like Cain and Abel.
She calls herself Oman. She lives on a patch homeless people next to a busy street. The thieves are arch assistance.
We're constantly shuffled around, like you don't get to rest, like you're constantly just trying to pay attention and be aware of when everything is going to get destroyed, stolen.
Support service providers for the homeless say people like Oman are suffering the consequences of decades of failed national policy.
We have a broken mental health system. We have a broken foster care system. We have some folks who ended up homeless because of an addiction. We have some folks who start substance misuse once they become homeless.
Now, possible changes to U.S. law could make life more difficult for homeless people. In 2013, the town of Grant, Oregon, passed an ordinance criminalizing any form of camping or staying overnight on public property. And appeals cut throughout the law, but the city took the case to the Supreme Court states. And urban areas, including Los Angeles County, which has a homeless population of more than 75,000, supports the camping ban. One LA County supervisor, St. Berger, said in a statement, if local governments are restricted from regulating and camp on public property, the government are left powerless to effectively address worsening homeless crisis.
Advocates for the homeless say criminalizing people who live on the streets simply won't work, especially in a city like Los Angeles.
You can't criminalize people. We don't have space to put them in a jail. It's not going to happen. You can give every person in these tents as many tickets as you want, but where are you going to put them? If you kick them out of here, they'll go set up a block later.
Homan, who creates art from found objects, says she has no idea where she will be living in a week, a year, or beyond.
I don't know what the answer is, but it is not persecuting the people that have already suffered so much.
Last year, more than 650,000 people in the U.S. were homeless at some point in time, the highest number recorded since data began being collected nearly 2 decades ago. Kemisola Jomo, Osrc News.
Any new Gaza ceasefire deal with Israel will likely include the release of hundreds of Palestinians from Israeli jails. In the previous ceasefire in November, 240 men and women were released back to their families in the occupied West Bank. Omoshilola Aditoyajai reports.
It's been 3 months since Nohad Awad was released from an Israeli prison, but she says she still doesn't feel free.
We are prisoners released as part of a deal, so of course all eyes are on us. They told us we're under surveillance. Things haven't gone back to normal. I haven't left home since I was released. At checkpoints, I'm afraid I would get picked on.
Nohad was convicted of using scissors to try to stab shoppers at a market in West Jerusalem in 2015. Her 14-year-old cousin, Hadel, who was with her both girls, were shot by a passing soldier. Hadel was killed. One of Nohad's first stops after her release was her cousin's grave.
After being away for 8 years, there are new challenges to face because there have been so many changes. I'd like to pick up my education, lead a normal life, and to tackle these challenges head on.
Nohad served 8 years of a 10-year sentence. Her family hadn't been allowed to see her since October 7th.
There has been a 180-degree shift in the family since she got out. We were on edge. We were not allowed to contact Nuran. Now we see a remarkable transformation in her. She is positive. Despite her hardships in prison, she came out as an educated, cultured and successful person.
Nohad was one of 240 Palestinians freed in November in exchange for 110 captives released by Hamas in Gaza. 10 of those Palestinians have since been rearrested by Israeli forces. Omoshiliola Adesoye Ajayi, Osrc News.
Politicians in Pakistan have elected Shahbaz Sharif as Prime Minister for a second time. Political violence and allegations of vote rigging marred elections last month. No single party won a majority, but the two largest parties in parliament agreed to form a coalition government which allows Sharif to be elected. Tolulope Oyebode has the details.
Muhammad Shahbaz Sharif Saab is declared to have been elected as the Prime Minister of Islamic Republic of Pakistan.
Shahbaz Sharif celebrates being elected Prime Minister for the second time. He secured 201 votes to beat Omar al-Khan, who was backed by former Prime Minister Imran Khan's PTI party, but not without support from the 8 allied parties, including the Pakistan People's Party, that stood third in the recent elections. Although Shahbaz Sharif's elder brother Nawaz Sharif was hoping to become Prime Minister for the 4th time after returning from exile in London, he has opted to let Shahbaz take the top job. Several political parties, including Khan's PTI, emerged as the single largest group after last month's election, but they failed to win enough votes to secure a majority. They accused Pakistan's military establishment of rigging the votes and want what they called their stolen mandate to be returned and the release of Khan from prison. Shahbaz, who now heads the coalition government, says he is determined to bring the nation out of economic crisis. Pakistan has received billions of dollars in loans from the International Monetary Fund to help it out of spiraling debt.
But now we've opted for deep surgery. We have to bring revolutionary changes to the system. We will bring basic reforms to different departments. We have decided to overcome all the issues. We will not let Pakistan's people live in an embarrassing situation.
But many people here on the streets of Islamabad are not convinced.
The inflation skyrocketed during their previous 16-month tenure. They doubled gas, electricity and flour prices. They have stolen the people's mandates. PTI was winning, but they rigged the results. I request that they, instead of stealing from Pakistan and buying flats in England, rather do something for poor people.
We all know how the government came into power. They should have respected the people's mandate. However, we hope they will get their act together and offer relief to the common man. May God have mercy on us.
The new government faces a huge economic crisis along with growing political instability and serious security threats on its western border with Afghanistan and Iran. Tolulope Oyebode, Osrc News.
A rally against the South Korean government's medical reform measures has drawn its largest crowd yet. The Doctors Association warns it's only the start of what it expects to be a long fight against government plans. Kemisola Ochomi has the details.
Organizers says tens of thousands came from across South Korea to fight against the government's medical reforms plan. It is the largest crowd yet in this week's long battle.
The government deceives the public's eyes in order to exploit policies and systems to make doctors eternal medical slaves.
The doctors group says the plan to add an additional 10,000 doctors within 10 years not only is premature but will all further drive doctors away from areas of need towards the more lucrative private practice. Even public hospitals within Seoul are in a difficult situation, according to the city's mayor.
Since coming to office 2 years ago, I've been working to improve working conditions for doctors and proposed considerable salaries, but there are no applicants.
As the standoff enters a third week, the government is preparing to suspend the medical license of the first batch among the thousands of young doctors who have walked off the job in protest. The tug of war has galvanized public support for President Yoon, who struggled in the polls. Latest figures suggest his approval rating has increased by a whopping 10 percentage points since a month ago. Still, some veteran politicians who agreed with raising the number of doctors are calling for a more deliberate approach.
Some in the ruling party may be looking to emulate the US's President Reagan or the UK's Thatcher and their forceful resolution of labour strikes. But this approach doesn't always succeed, and I hope the government knows this current medical crisis is much more complex.
In the absence of dialogue, medical workers filling the void left by the striking junior doctors, one of a further reduction in crucial medical services and growing fatigue among staff. Kemisola Jomu, Osrc News.
And that's Word of Noon. Many thanks for watching. Good afternoon.